Howdy, champs. My name is Mohit, and people, today I'm going to talk about four different methods in jQuery, namely width, inner width, outer width, and outer width true. Basically, these methods help you fetch the dimensions of an element. Mind you, guys, that element could be a div, it could be a button, or it could be a para, and that's exactly I'm about to demonstrate today. Uh, but while getting the dimensions, the width and the height of the elements, you can get the inner width, and outer width true. There's a difference between width, inner width, and outer width true. Let me tell you. In fact, let me straight away start off with a browser preview. Here I'm in Mozilla Firefox. Let me say reload. Okay. Now, people, I'm using Linux Mint Cinnamon version 15 as the operating system. I'm also using Record My Desktop to capture uh, the screen or the video that I'm about to upload to YouTube after the tutorial is actually done, and I think it's pretty decent. Okay. At the same time, people, I'm using Bluefish version 2.2.4 to write my CSS, HTML, and JavaScript code. Although Bluefish is not exactly meant to write the JS code, but nevertheless, it does accept if you feed in the JS code. Okay, very cool. So let's get back to the browser Mozilla Firefox, which is the default browser for Linux Mint Cinnamon version 15. We have a div out here, and the dimensions of the div are: the width is 300, the height is 250 people, the padding is 10, the margin is 10 px as well, the background color is light coral, and the border is 5 px on all the four sides. Okay, now the moment I click on the display dimensions of an element, I get the width as 350 and the height as 300. Now, basically, the program that I've written is calculating the outer width true. Basically means it's taking into account the margin, the padding, and the border along with the width. So it's adding everything up. So 10 pixels of padding on both the sides, 10 pixels of margin on both the sides, that's 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, plus 5 pixels of border on both the sides, that's 5 plus 5, 10, that's 50, plus added to 300, you actually get 350. The height, which was, if you remember, was 250, goes up to the 300 because of padding and margin and border getting added to the actual height of the div. Okay, so basically the program that I've written is calculating the outer width true. If I simply calculate the outer width, it calculates everything barring the margin. So you take into account the padding and the uh, border as well, but not the margins outside. The inner width calculates just the actual width plus the padding, leaves out the border too. And the width method will calculate uh, the real width, but will not take into account the padding or the border or the margins. Okay, so these are four different methods through which you can actually fetch the dimensions of an element. Mind you, people, I said I can even calculate the dimensions of this button or maybe this para, and that's exactly what I'm about to show you. Okay, first things first, let's understand the HTML document. People, I'm not going to rewrite the code. The code is very simple, self-explanatory, and if I take you slowly and thoroughly through the code, I'm absolutely sure that it should suffice in understanding what's going on out here. Okay, so let's talk about the HTML document first, and also I'm going to bundle up all these three assets, which are actually basically the local site folder, which has, in fact, I don't need this file at all. I'm using a CDN, so I don't need the actual jQuery package. Anyways, let me just keep it as it is. You know, sometimes I may go offline and I might actually need it. Okay, so I'm actually going to bundle up all the assets for you. Okay, so we have this externally lying CSS file. Just, you know, the way to go. Keeps your code very, very clean if you have the CSS kept externally. The externally lying JS file and the HTML document. I'm going to bundle up all together. Or you can even, I can even include the, the jQuery minified file, but I suggest that you use a CDN, a content delivery network system, to fetch the jQuery library of the package, which is the latest 1.10.1. I'm nevertheless gonna, include this in my zipped format, which is available as a free download, which will be available as a free download from my website, http://qualitylessons.net. Cool. So, people, yep. Let me get back to my HTML document. So we have the doc type declaration out here. So I'm using HTML5. I have the opening and the closing HTML tags out here. Opening, closing head tags out here. Opening, closing title goes out here. The link tag is required to tie up to the externally lying CSS file. I'm actually tying up with the ext.css file, which is this one, people. Okay, so the type is text CSS relationship style sheet. Cool. Then I'm using the script tag in line number 7, which is fetching the latest jQuery package 1.10.1 at the time of making this tutorial. The minified version, that is, which is but fine. And through the script tags, I'm also fetching the externally lying JS file, which is this file. Okay, so head of the document closes out here. The body starts out here. People closes out here. We have a div with an ID of style1. Now, if I go to the externally lying CSS file and look at style1, basically pushing in a width of 300 px, height of 250, padding of 10, margin of 10, background color of light coral, and a border of 5px solid red. Pretty simple CSS, self-explanatory, people. Let me get back. Okay, so that'll create a div with some dimension, some background color, some padding, and some margin, right? Then I've used a line break out here. Okay, right. I've used the button tag, people, which I've closed out here, and I've given it an ID of ptn and some text out here. Let's see what this ptn actually is. Let's get back to the CSS file. So width of 180 to the button, px status, background color of this one, and a font size of so much. Okay, so very, very simple, self-explanatory CSS. Yep. Okay, now I have the opening, closing p tags, people, out here. Okay, and which has some text which says width, inner height, outer width, outer with true, return different dimensions of an element. Very, very true. Then I have yet another paragraph. I've given it a class of check. Basically, I'm going to check the width of this paragraph. That is the reason I was required to give it a class to separate itself from the other paragraph. Okay, has some text again. So we have the height, inner height, outer height, true methods that return different dimensions of an element. Very true. Okay, so again, very simple HTML, people. I don't think so I really need to rewrite it all over again. So this I've already explained. Now all that requires me to do is explain the JavaScript file. Again, people, it's so simple to understand that even if I don't write from scratch, I think you should be fine with that. Basically, when the document is actually ready, when the elements are ready to be manipulated, when the DOM has actually initialized, is when I would want to fire an anonymous function, which opens in line number 1, closes in line number 16. Whatever is there between here is fired off when the document is actually ready. Okay. Now I've declared a variable and given it a name txt. I've made it equal to an empty string, basically an empty variable. Then I've declared another variable, called it div, and which is actually equal to hash style1. The $ hash style1 is a selector. Basically, it's referencing the only div that we have in the HTML document, which is this. If you remember, people, it had an ID of style1. It's referencing this div. Basically, it's pointing to this div. Then we have a variable, I've called it button, and which is referring to the hash button. Basically, it's referring to the only, pointing to the only button that we have in line number 15. It has an ID of btn, if you remember. Cool. And also, people, I've declared a variable called it para, which is actually pointing to the second paragraph, which has a class of check. Let me take you back to that. So this paragraph in line number 17, if you remember, has a class of check. Way cool. Let's get back to the JavaScript file. Okay, now people, what I'm doing is I don't need to rewrite it. This wasn't really required. Beg your pardon. Okay. Now I'm saying text plus. Now what does this mean? Basically, it says append to whatever text we have, which is actually empty in the beginning. So just append whatever is already present. So already present is null, is nothing. Okay, add some text to it. Add what? Add the word width and a colon, some space, and then say div.outerWidth true. Basically, div.outerWidth true is going to calculate the outer width of the div. Div is nothing but div with style 1 ID. Okay, and what is outer width? Basically includes the margin, the padding, the border, and the true width. Basically, the actual width, the real width that we had given out here in the ext.css file, which is 300. Okay, it's gonna add everything up. So basically that'll be 300 plus 10 10 10 10 5 5. That's 350, and then we have a line break that's being added to the txt variable. Again, I'm adding some more text. I'm adding height, a colon, and a space plus the outer height. Basically that's 250 if you remember. And I'm adding to it 10 10 10 10, padding, margin, border 5 5. So that's a 300. So that's gonna fetch the calculation 300 out here. And then I'm saying if somebody clicks on the button is nothing but the button tag with the ID button. So if somebody clicks on the button, please display inside the div through the HTML method the text. Text is nothing but the outer width, outer height with a line break. Yep, that's exactly what is happening when I'm saying when I say, give me a sec, let's refresh. Okay, so the true outer width and the true outer height. Okay, I'm going to change this outer to an inner. Basically we'll exclude the margins now, but we'll calculate the real width and height, add to it the padding and the margin too. Okay, I'm sorry, just let everything be the way it is, but this should be inner. Just gonna remove the word true. The word true. Yep, that's all I need to do. That's gonna exclude the margins now. So I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna refresh. I'm gonna go out here. I'm gonna say reload. Okay, I'm gonna fetch it now. Basically, the what actually goes away is the margin. So 300 actually becomes 280, and this becomes 320. Let me just check. When this was actually true, let me save it up. Let me refresh. Just reload the page. Uh-oh. I think I'll pause the video. I'll check what's going on. Let's just pause the video for a sec. Okay, sorry about that. I've actually checked the aberration in the code. I simply wrote inner out here when it should have been outer. So outer width, you see, now it's fetching 330, and so reduced by 20 out here and 20 out here, basically excluding the margin. I just made this outer, so that was a mistake that I made. Anyways, so I'm back on track. So outer width without the word true out here inside the parents is gonna exclude the margins, right? And I'm gonna change this thing to inner. So this is inner and this is inner. Okay. Now this, let's see what this actually does. And let's reload. Refresh. Okay. Now people, you see it's actually excluded the border this time, but it has kept the it's accounted for the padding though. Okay. Now I'm gonna change the code further. I'm gonna drop down this word inner as well, you know, W in lowercase and H in lowercase too. So just the width and the height. People, that's gonna give me the real width and the height, which is 300, 250. I'm gonna save it, and I'm going to refresh, reload, that is. I'm going to check again, so that's 300 to 250, which is but fine. Okay, I'm going to replace the word div with the word btn, basically referring to the only button that we have inside the HTML document. I'm going to save it. Let's see whether it can give me the button width. It should. Why not? Okay, let's reload. Let's check. Yes, that's the button width. Or is it? Let me just go and check the button width. That's 180, and it's actually giving me btn dot width. Okay, basically must be the actual width, is it? Let me just check the para. I'll be absolutely sure what's going on out here. So para. So para is actually the only paragraph uh, with the class check. Let me just save it. Let me go back out here. Let me just refresh. Let me get the dimensions. Yes, so basically the width was actually giving me the true width of the button, and now I'm getting the true width of the uh, para. Let me just change this to btn again, btn, and instead of saying width, how about inner width? Let's see if it actually makes any difference out here. Let me just save it. Let me refresh. Let's refresh from here. Let's check it. Now this time it actually gives me 176 for the button. Let me change this to outer. OUTER. Okay, let's save it up, and let's refresh this time. Let's check it. That's the true. That's actually accounting for the padding and the border, everything. That's giving me the width of the button. So everything is working just perfectly, all right, the way it should actually. All right, people. So, people, I hope you found this information quite useful, and I'll hope you sub. I'll also hope that you'll keep coming back for more and more tutorials from me. You have a good day. Bye bye. Peace.